Now let's have a look on how to create a new object. When you create a new object, you're using the new operator and a constructor call. The new operator allocates the memory for the new object. It allocates just the right size that is required for the specific object that is created. The constructor call initializes the new object at the time of creation. Constructors initialize, they give a value to the fields, but they can only be called when the new object is created. If you want to change the field values later on, you can no longer use a constructor. You need a method, for example, a setter or another method that changes field values. Also notice that in my constructor call, I specify an argument, and arguments do not specify a type, so this is different from the parameter in our constructor declaration. First, in my constructor declaration, I specified what type needs to be passed. Here in my constructor call, I just pass the argument of the appropriate value. The type is no longer mentioned. So let's look at some examples. Here I have scanner input. This is a variable called input of type scanner, and we are assigning a new scanner instance. The new scanner instance is created with a new operator followed by a constructor call. Notice here my constructor scanner has the same name as the type, which is the class name. So here I specify a type. It has no parentheses. On the right side I call the constructor. It looks like the type followed by an argument list, but this is the name of the constructor. When I pass the argument, I no longer specify the type, I just specify a value of the appropriate type. Let's look at another example. Here is the constructor declaration we looked at before. It has one parameter of type double called R, and R, my parameter, is used to initialize the field radius. Here is the corresponding constructor call. We pass an argument 5.2, which is of type double. Double is no longer mentioned because double was already specified in the parameter declaration. When we call the constructor, we just pass an argument of an appropriate type. So here I have my constructor call in combination with the new operator. This creates a new object on the heap, initializes the radius with 5.2 and returns a reference to that newly created object. We store this reference to the newly created object in a variable called myCircle. The variable is of type circle because we store a reference to a circle